and welcome to FPL Malbo. My name's Andy, and today, with the season just a couple of days out, I've got my team reveal for Game Week 1. Quite a lot of thoughts to go through, so let's jump straight into it. So in goal, I have gone back to my original pick from my first draft, which is Fleckham from Brentford. I had Nana in for a little while. I'm not entirely sold by that as a pick. He's 0.5 more expensive, and although I don't need that money now, like I have 0.5 in the bank, I like starting the season with money in the bank, so I don't really want to use it unless I think Anana's going to be a much better option than the 4.5 goalkeepers. Now, I wasn't sold on a lot of them, but Anana, I think United might have some teething problems. I think they're going to change the way that they play out from the back, particularly. Their defence was really strong last year, and I don't think Anana's going to make them weaker at all. It'll probably improve United as a team, but you've got defenders who are going to be asked to play a higher line, I imagine, play out from the back more. I think we might see the odd mistake in their sort of teething problems, like I say. And United's fixtures, I don't think, are so good that it's worth that extra 0.5. Now, I've gone for Flecken, really, due to not liking the other options. Pickford I've ruled out. He's highly owned, but I don't understand it myself. Like Everton, I think, needed big investment. They haven't done it. They've got injury problems. I really like Sean Dyche, but I think Everton are going to be struggling again this season. I don't really want to go near the Everton defence. Flecken, at least, I think, is nailed. Now they looks like David Ray is pretty much going to go to Arsenal. I consider the Brighton goalkeepers. I think Steele will probably start the season, but I don't know for how long he'll keep that number one spot. And Flecken, Brentford are a kind of average defence, and I think that's a good little sweet spot for FPL goalkeepers. You'll get a few clean sheets in there. You also, they kind of concede enough chances that the goalkeeper's involved, so you get save points, you can pick up bonus points that way. I'm relatively happy with that, and I think it means first wildcard you can then really assess if there's a sort of standout goalkeeping option. But I think Flecken will do as well as kind of a lot of the other 4.5 or 5 million. At the very least, and might potentially be better than them. So Flecken's back in goal for me. Areola's still on the bench, but that will be Matt Turner if he goes to Nottingham Forest, and that's actually in FPL before Friday. I think he'll be first choice there, although they are still looking for another keeper. It looks like as kind of competition. The problem is I'm tripled up on Arsenal. Spoiler alert! So I can't put him in relying on the fact that he'll sign for Forest. I need that to actually go through in the game. I think it probably will, because it looks like it might be announced today. I'm recording this on Wednesday. So yeah, fingers crossed Areola will swap to Matt Turner on the bench. Onto the defence now, and there's not too much to say because I haven't made a ton of changes. Gabriel's still there. In fact, I don't think I've made any changes. Gabriel's still there. I always wanted an Arsenal defender. I think he's the best option because his goal threat's slightly higher than Saliba. But for what it's worth, I think they're both equally good picks, really. There's not that much in it. Sputanen, I like Brighton's fixtures up early, although I think that Luton game at home is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. I don't know how long he'll be in my team for, but I think the first sort of 4 or 5 fixtures is a good option. He's got attacking potential as well. And John Stones, I wanted to have a City defender, and I think he's the best choice, not necessarily because he steps into midfield and that improves him as an attacking option. I don't think he gets into the sort of positions where he's likely to suddenly be a big goal threat. But City don't have a huge amount of options that play that kind of role. So similar to Sputanen, I think John Stones will become a rotation risk, but I think he'll start the season as first choice, him and Diaz and Gavardio, or maybe get you know, a little bit of time to get eased in, or possibly be challenging Ake for that kind of left back / left centre back role. You see on the bench as well, I've got Chilwell. I think that mitigates the Stones pick a little bit as well, because Stones isn't somebody who's likely to come on if he doesn't start the game. So if there is rotation early doors, I'm quite happy for Chilwell to play. I'm actually considering putting Chilwell in for game week 1. I think Chelsea will concede in that game to Liverpool, and they might concede a few, but I think that's the place you want to target Liverpool on, that kind of, well, the right back essentially, with Trent pushing into midfield, with them not having an out-and-out 6 at the moment. Konate's been asked to cover a ton of ground between sort of centre back and right back, and Chilwell's been bombing on in pre-season. I've got him in predominantly for attacking returns from game week 3. Chelsea's fixtures look really good, and he'll be a guaranteed starter in my team. I think he's worth getting in early, and yeah, I'm considering starting him in game week 1, but I'll talk about that a little later. And Bay is still on my bench. I think I said it on the last video, but of all the £4 million options, I think he plays for the best defence out of those. So it's not really on personnel, it's just on team why Bay is in there. Hopefully he's pretty nailed, so if he does need to step in, yeah, chances are it'll be for a 2-pointer, but that's fine. So onto the midfield, and I've made just one change here. I'll start backwards actually. Mbeumo was pictured in training, so although he's yellow flagged, I don't think he's a risk for game week 1. He's the one I'm actually considering dropping for Chilwell. I may well play a 4-4-2. That's the only real decision I think I've still got left to make. A good option against Tottenham, like their defence, big question marks over it. I think they'll be good going forward this year under Postecoglou, but yeah, I think that defence is still targetable. Although they're making signings which, you know, might help them massively. They haven't had a pre-season with them, so yeah, big question marks there. So I don't mind starting in Mbeumo, but I like the idea of Chilwell bombing forward into the space that Trent Alexander-Arnold leaves. Then the Arsenal boys, I've always had Martinelli and Saka as my double up in the Arsenal attack. I think Martinelli's the best finisher at the club. I think as a long-term option, I'm sure there'll be rotation. Like Arsenal have so many good options there, but I think he'll start. I'd be surprised if he doesn't start 4 out of the first 5, maybe all 5. I think, like I say, he's the best finisher at the club. I think Arteta really likes him. Saka's the most nailed on, and he's on penalties. So yeah, Jesus was never in my thinking. I always wanted those two in midfield as a double up. I actually thought Martinelli's kind of ownership would rise quite a lot after Jesus's injury, with people still wanting an Arsenal triple up, but doesn't seem to massively. I still think he's about 14% owned. Surprisingly low for me. Yeah, I think it must be that rotation risk that's putting people off, but I think with a game a week start of the season, I don't think Martinelli's too high a risk, and his upside's so good that I want him in there. Rashford, I think will start down the middle until United have got sort of fitness back in either Højlund or Martial. I think that Rashford's a slightly worse option up front, but I still think he's a better option than Bruno Fernandes. The double up's definitely worth considering. I have considered downgrading a defender to put in Bruno as well as Rashford, but last season I felt like I got burnt a little bit from having Bruno creating tons of chances. I watched a few United games, and every game was just coming away thinking, how has Bruno not got any returns there? But the problem is that Rashford's really the only player I think that finishes Bruno's chances. And I don't think the players that they brought in, at least to start the season, like I say, Højlund might change that, but Mount's not an elite finisher that's coming in. Like I don't see anything really changing. And I try not to worry too much about what happened last season. But yeah, until I'm convinced that the United attack is significantly better, I'm gonna just go with Rashford for now. The one change that I've made is that Foden's left my team and I brought in Maddison. I had both of them actually in my first draft. I do like the look of Maddison. I think he'll be on some set pieces for Tottenham. I think he's always created a lot of chances that haven't always been finished. And I think with better attacking players at Tottenham, I was going to say with Harry Kane, but there's question marks over that. Yeah, I think with better attacking players at Tottenham, I think he could really ramp up the points. He's always been a bit of a streaky player as well, and he's started pre-season apparently playing well. So I'm sort of hoping that he hits the ground running and has that sort of classic Maddison thing of being superb for sort of 5 game weeks and then maybe being a little quieter afterwards. But yeah, I like that pick. I'm more than happy to bring Maddison in. I've had Foden in every draft that I've kind of looked at. It wasn't the benching from the Community Shield that put me off. It was the fact that Kevin De Bruyne came off the bench. I basically thought that Foden was most likely to start in the kind of Kevin De Bruyne role, which is actually where Alvarez played last Sunday. And I kind of thought if Alvarez played there, that Foden would either start in central midfield or on the right. With Kevin De Bruyne back as well, like he's a nailed-on starter. Maybe he won't start game week 1. I don't know if it's too soon for him. Didn't play any minutes in pre-season, but I just feel like it's too much of a risk going forward now. And yeah, I think Foden could potentially start that first game against Burnley, but I'm sort of thinking how many of the first 5 do I think Foden's going to start? And if the answer is 2 or 3, he's not worth the risk for me. You're just sort of booking in a transfer. And Tottenham's fixtures after the first couple are really good. So I probably brought in Maddison a touch earlier than I was maybe planning on. But yeah, I don't like giving myself unnecessary headaches. And I think Foden has the potential to be a headache. So Maddison's the kind of safer option for me and the one that I'm going to go with. And finally, we've got the attack, and I think the bit that everybody was wanting to hear is I've got Ujo on the bench. Don't know if that's how you pronounce his name. I think he might have played once in pre-season for Forest. Let's hope he never comes near my team. The boring bit is Haaland. Haaland's going to be my captain game week 1. Surprise, surprise. I've gone with Ollie Watkins alongside him. I had Nkunku in before. When I heard the kind of Jesus and Nkunku injury news kind of broke at the same time. And when I heard Jesus was out, I was a little disappointed because I thought that I wasn't convinced about him as an early option. And he was so highly owned. And I thought that I had a chance to get a good start if Jesus didn't start well. But then I thought like people might go for Nkunku instead, who I really like the look of. And then Nkunku's injury, made me scrabbling a little bit. I've gone with Ollie Watkins. Now, initially, I wasn't convinced by Watkins because I don't think he's that explosive an option. For 8 million, I think he's real steady. Like, I think that Villa will have a good season this year. I think that Watkins is nailed. He's on penalties, although isn't a very good penalty taker, in my opinion. So I don't know that that's necessarily a good thing. I'm kind of hoping that Tielemans takes it off him because I think he's a better penalty taker. But I like the idea of going with the kind of most expensive option, I guess. And Ollie Watkins, he chips in basically. Like he gets goal returns all the time, goal or an assist. He just doesn't have, he's rarely going to hit a hat trick for you, or he's not as explosive as other options, I think. But yeah, it just makes it an easy pivot. Like there's anyone, I'm not looking at anyone above him. So there's any option really below him if somebody starts the season well. Like João Pedro, I think is a great option at Brighton, but absolutely no idea who's going to get minutes in that Brighton team early season. Basically, they seem to have so many options. Plus, they're talking about signing Kudos as well from Ajax, who's yet another player who can play in that 10 role. João Pedro might start up front as well, possibly, but you've got Welbeck and you've got Ferguson there. Ferguson could potentially be an option, but the same reasons why I'm not really looking at that. So yeah, I like the idea of starting with Ollie Watkins. Their fixtures are quite mixed. I think after the Newcastle game, I think that's one of the tough ones. They've got Newcastle away. I suppose he could be an option as well for benching for Chilwell, but yeah, benching an £8 million striker first game week seems bold. So yeah, I've said it for a few players. Like I don't know how long Watkins will be in my team for, but he's going to start game week 1 for me. The obvious thing I think would be to look at Nicholas Jackson as well, considering I had a Chelsea attacker and Jackson's more nailed now that Nkunku's injured. The problem is I think that Chelsea will probably sign another striker. And one of the reasons that I really liked the Chelsea attack was Nkunku. So even if Jackson was playing, Nkunku would have played in the 10 role or played off the left. I think he's played both in pre-season. Without that, you're relying on players like Mudryk and Sterling having a significantly better season than last year. And incidentally, if either of them start the season looking like they will, they'll be straight in my fantasy team because they're really, really low cost, I think, for the quality of player. But yeah, it looks like that Chelsea won't sign another striker to compete with Jackson. So you're probably getting for the first game week or two, and then there's a chance that he may be out of the team again. I don't really want to put somebody in my team that I think I might have to take out because they're not getting game time. So yeah, Jackson not really in my thoughts at the moment. So thanks for watching my team reveal for game week 1. If you enjoyed the video, then give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be making these videos all the way through the season. Let me know in the comments what you think of my team or any sort of players I may have overlooked or suggested changes. And I'll leave it there for now. Catch you again on another video.